What's going on, and welcome back to another video in Finding Freedom. Now, let's say you're in business. Well, what does the title have to do with anything? If you ever seen the movie The Patriot, in that movie they use something called guerrilla tactics, which is normally done in warfare because you want to make your opponent think that you are everywhere at once or that they are surrounded when you are working with limited resources, especially in a saturated environment, or if you're outnumbered financially by those in your area. So how does this convert to business? Well, in business, in marketing, they have something called guerrilla style marketing. So think about it like this. You can be on one platform, let's say Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram. That's like staying in one state if that's your only jurisdiction, right? But if you go to multiple platforms, you have to remember Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok are all about entertainment and connecting with people. LinkedIn is for business. So when you're conducting your, guerrilla style tactics, make sure that your videos for, let's say, YouTube or let's say LinkedIn are more business entertainment orientated, whereas your personality shows more on things like Meta, such as Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So if you're thinking about the FIT program, right? Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, right? You want to go ahead and be entertaining and be on multiple platforms. This is how to get yourself out there amongst the masses because let's face it, not everybody is on the same platform. Some people like Meta more, some people like TikTok more, some people like Instagram, some people like YouTube, some people like Snapchat, some people like WeChat, some people like X, some people like YouTube, so on and so forth. So when it comes to benefiting the end user, you want to use these guerrilla style tactics. Now, let's say you don't have that much time or you're pressed for time. Well, I got you. So YouTube is normally done in a long format. And then you could cut that up with things like Opus.io, not Opus Day, Opus.io. Opus Day is like a group for something, but that's completely different. Now, if you're on the FIT program, entertainment, right? You want to be funny, show your personality so that there is no disconnect when your clients come to meet you, right? If you're sarcastic and funny, and that's naturally who you are, be sarcastic and funny. If your education is something that is vital to you, then utilize, some people in industries would say the word jargon, so on and so forth. Some people would say Harry Potter terminology, some people would say copy, some people would say other things. In marketing, we use the term copy, or we utilize different vocabulary or vernacular, as they would say. Now, when it comes to LinkedIn, you want to come off a little bit more professional, but you want to show that you can still be humorous, right? Because let's face it, if you take life too seriously, you'll never get out alive. And that's from Van Wilder, at least the first one, not The Rise of Taj, of, so on and so forth, right? So remember, there's always something that you can do when it comes to putting your content out there. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, show your personality, be funny, make sure you educate people on something. Yes, it's one thing to say, hey, I'm a lawyer, so on and so forth, hire me, but be funny. Why should they hire you? You're like, oh, have you ever seen Suits where, who is it? Stempleton is trying to dodge Harvey Specter. And they're in the courtroom and Stempleton makes up some excuse. And he's like, oh, my niece, she's sick. I have to redo this court case. And he's like, on what grounds? And Harvey Specter leans over to Mike and he goes, on the grounds that he's a pussy, And it's that sarcasm, because not only does it show his gravitas, but it shows his flexibility when it comes to his personality. He could be professional in the courtroom, but also be sarcastic, witty, and funny with those that he is, carrying out the court case with, or that is, his wingman, so on and so forth, who would be Mike Ross. Whereas if you're on LinkedIn, you want to be more professional. What does that mean? Yeah, you have the business suit in either video. It doesn't matter. That's how you dress. That's your apparel. Remember, the law is not, presentation is 9/10 of the law, and the law would dictate your presentation and judge you based upon that. You ever heard the expression, people judge a book by its cover? Think about it that way, right? Your presentation on LinkedIn wants to be more informative, more educational, still showing a hint of your personality, but you want to give people the understanding that you know what you're talking about. Because at the end of the day, people can sense bullshit, right? Or as my Uncle David used to say, bullshit. right? Because you got the bull horns and then it's pooping back here. So, just think about it like that. Now, when it comes to things like YouTube, YouTube is a long format. So what do you want to do? Let's say you're in a business, or business is very broad. So let's pick a vertical or an industry, right? Let's say you're in real estate, right? Well, what do you specialize in? Do you look for the biggest bang for your buck? Do you specialize in turning around properties? So on and so forth. Maybe you're in a different industry. Maybe you're in finance. Well, what makes you special, right? Are you able to switch the jargon, switch the lingo into people's language? One of the things we get taught in the marketing industry is you want to, speak to people as though they have an education level of between 8th grade to about high school level. That way you can hit a vast majority of people. So if you're a lawyer or an attorney, so on and so forth, present yourself, show your personality. Who gives a fuck? They're going to hire you anyways, right? If you're not cursing in your videos and then they get into an office setting and you start cursing, it's going to create what's known as a disconnect psychologically. So don't have that disconnect, right? If you're working with, let's say, a spouse, so on and so forth, or a significant other or other people in the thing, they're going to also say, oh, this person's a teddy bear. But yet the person that you're working with is like, yeah, I'm sure he's a teddy bear. I've been around him. He's ruthless. So on and so forth, right? So that disconnect creates, yes, that little bit of mysteriousness because of the people that are also doing the word of mouth marketing for you, aka the WOM, 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 word of mouth, right? Marketing. And then, of course, you want to go ahead and present in a long-term format. So if you're a lawyer that deals with malpractice, right, or medical cases, or negligence, or lack of due diligence, or dereliction of duty, or conspiracy, whatever the case may be, right? Why don't you bring something that people are already talking about? This is a technique called newsjacking that I learned from Tony Robbins during my time of not only studying him and his materials while I was in the military, but when I got out and I went to UPW, Unleash the Power Within, and I think I have videos or pictures of it somewhere on my social profiles, right? So yes, I paid the fee. I walked across fire. I went to the military. I did my hardship, so on and so forth, etc. And now I'm just trying to bring it back to you guys so that you guys can thrive, because when one eats, we all eat. So remember, use language that people understand. It's okay to use terminology from your industry. It shows your credibility, your professionalism, as well as your knowledge base, right? Knowledge is power. They say that, yes, but it's only when the knowledge is applied that it becomes powerful. So if you're establishing yourself on YouTube, let's say you had a slip and fall, right? Well, what happened during the slip and fall? Well, there's a lot of kids these days, working and doing things that are a little bit reckless. They get into car accidents, so on and so forth. Well, let's say you were driving drunk. Everybody has a sip, a sip or two, so on and so forth. But why did you get into the accident, right? And then you could talk about the process, right? Because people need understanding so that they can know, like, and trust you in order to, do business with you, right? And the more they trust you, the more people will do business with you. And if you do a great job and you deliver the experience, remember, experience is what matters. You have Six Flags, Hershey Park, and all these other places, Caro and so on and so forth, but nothing trumps Disney, right? Because Disney delivers an experience. Yeah, the prices are up there, but for some reason, haven't you ever noticed that people complain about the price of Disney, and then when they leave Disney, they forget about the price because of the experience that was acquired, right? And Grant Cardone himself would dictate, along with other people in the sales industry, when value exceeds price, price doesn't matter, right? So make sure you give people an understanding. How does this work? I don't want to feel like I'm getting gypped by hiring you because you said your fee was this, or you had me fill out a memorandum of understanding and now you're switching the terms of the negotiation. You're switching the terms of the memorandum of understanding in which we are going to do business. Now, if you don't know what an MOU is, go ahead and look it up. Use ChatGPT, Google, etc. But these are just different terminologies that you can utilize within your vernacular, your presentation, so on and so forth. And remember, presentation is 9/10 of the law. So if you want people to do business with you, based upon good faith or doing business in good faith versus doing business in bad faith, which I've been accused of that before, but I got the receipts to show that I did the right thing. So, just make sure you take everything as a grain of salt and, go ahead and put yourself out there. Let's say you dedicate an hour to the gym. Okay, after the gym, you eat, so on and so forth. You have a lunch break. Well, you have to rest. You're not going to just jump right back into work unless you're extremely busy. Or let's say you have a weekend and it's off, right? Go ahead and film long form content and then cut that up with Opus.io. Opus.io will listen for the sound bites and give you the little snippets that you can put on YouTube as shorts, right? So those short video clips can also be utilized on different platforms. But remember, fit is always entertainment personality based, so people get to know you. LinkedIn is more business and professional. YouTube is more, long form content if you tend to be sometimes long-winded or you want to give more information. How do you get out of a parking ticket? What do you do when you get pulled over? What do you do when you're in business and you're entering negotiation? They say never split the difference, but if the other side is changing the rules, then what's the difference of you changing your rules, right? So that's a way to not split the difference. They want to change their side, we'll change our side. They want to not abide by certain rules or laws or whatever because they're operating on different things. Well, then you got to understand the game that they're playing. Let them open the door to let you know exactly where the rules and the grounds are. I think it was Andrew Tate that said, let the manipulators show you what their intent is and then pounce upon it, right? There's always this thing, the 7 deadly sins, and I always look at greed as one of them, right? If you're willing to go ahead and make a profit and not profiteer, you'll do better in business because you're not bringing a tear to people's face. Remember, when you're profiteering, you're in it for yourself. When you're making a profit, you're in for the both of you. So if you're doing a business deal, whether that's based upon contingency, based upon a percentage, value-based, project-based, or let's say you're on a retainer, make sure that there is an understanding and nothing gets blindsided, because the last thing you need is a blind spot when doing business and then negativity to go out into the world. Psychology would dictate that you need at least 10 positive actions or more in order to negate one negative action. So put yourself out there, make sure you diversify, as they say in finance, right? Because you want to have a diverse portfolio, so on and so forth, or apply diversification, differentiation amongst the platforms, extending yourself, right? Once you get a feel as what videos are doing good out there, then you could go ahead and put money behind it. Don't go ahead and do a traffic campaign or things like that, or immediate conversion campaign. Go ahead and do a brand awareness campaign. Put yourself out there in front of more people with a call to action and a link, so on and so forth, either to your website, to your social channels, to grow your audience. Remember, Tony Robbins and a lot of other marketers know this. People like people who are like themselves or how they would like to be, right? That doesn't just mean your physical apparel, but your personality as well. So I hope this helps you guys, and this has been another video in Finding Freedom. Peace.